Chapter 363, Mutual Absorption. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Sword Ripple of Center Spiritual Channels. Zhang Yuochen stretched out the middle finger of his right hand and gathered the genuine chi from all over his body into the fingertip. He then turned it into a cold sword wave and struck the body of a blood spirit. When the sword wave struck out and a blast of icing air surged out. Consequently, a long ice road was left on the ground and extended to the front of the blood spirit. Just as the blood spirit was struck by the sword radiance, the blood pattern on the surface of its body emerged. It emitted a reddish brilliance and blocked the sword wave. Pow! The sword wave failed to puncture the body of the blood spirit, but the blood spirit was crushed by the impact force and flew out more than 33 meters away. Its body was sealed by the icing cold which had become a 10-meter tall iceberg, and it impossible for it to move. Just as Zhang Yuochen relaxed slightly, the iceberg shook violently and cracks formed across it. Then it exploded suddenly. The blood spirit, soaring from the iceberg, attacked Zhang Yuochen once again. We can't kill or seal it. Is there no way to defeat the blood spirit? Zhang Yuochen wondered. Zhang Yuochen released his space domain at once and enveloped all 6 blood spirits into it. At the same time, he began to transfer the power of space and gathered into the palm of his hands. As soon as the blood spirit rushed over, Zhang Yuochen unfolded his hands and a space crack appeared 5 meters away from him which swallowed the blood spirit. In a moment, the space crack closed again and that blood spirit fell into nothingness and disappeared completely. Space power is absolutely invincible. Even the blood spirits with amazing defensive power could not survive when they fall into space crack. Zhang Yuochen sighed with relief. Since he had found a way to defeat the blood spirits, there was no need to fear them. Even if there were 5, he could face them. The remaining 5 blood spirits were all shocked by Zhang Yuochen's movement just now. They immediately stopped about 33 meters away and dared not to approach him. The blood spirits had a certain amount of intelligence and they knew to bully the weak and fear the strong. Since you are not willing to fight with me, I'll go first. He could not wait any longer. If the blood spirit queen caught up, he would never get away. Zhang Yuochen immediately demonstrated the bodily movement of Shadow of the Royal Wind Dragon and released his genuine chi, forming an illusory image of a flying dragon. He was going to leave. Ha ha! The laughter of the blood spirit queen rang out and spread throughout dozens of kilometers which stunned birds and shook the leaves. The voice of blood spirit queen was actually beautiful and pleasing. However, the voice was accompanied by a blast of icing air that was frightening and contained powerful energy. Among the surrounding forests, there existed more than a dozen turbulent air streams. Zhang Yuochen was caught up and his body rose upward uncontrollably. Damn! Was the bloody spirit queen catching up so quickly? Zhang Yuochen tried hard to control his form and used his genuine chi to condense a blue sword chi. He swung out with it and broke open the chaotic airflow and rushed out. The voice of the blood spirit queen rang again. Zhang Yuochen, you can't escape today. Bam! Suddenly, a huge spiritual blood palm gathered in the air and stretched toward Zhang Yuochen. That bloody palm was more than 20 meters long and seemed like a blood cloud. In front of it, Zhang Yuochen was like an ant. Break for me. Zhang Yuochen's fingers pinched into a sword skill and mobilized the power of heart integrated into sword. Then the abyss ancient sword flew out of his hand and turned into a sword radiance, hitting the huge blood hand. PHHT. Unexpectedly, the abyss ancient sword did not penetrate the bloody hand, rather, it was blocked by it instead. The sword slowly fell backwards and the light on the sword also became weaker and weaker. Zhang Yuochen immediately withdrew the abyss ancient sword and fell back to the ground from the air. The powerful impact made cracks appear on the ground. He had just stood up and tried to get away from here, but he found that blood spirit queen was standing in front of him and he almost bumped into her. At this moment, the distance between their faces was less than an inch and their noses were almost next to each other. Zhang Yuochen could clearly see his shadow in the blood-colored pupils of the blood spirit queen. Her eyes were very beautiful and each of her eyelashes curved upward. Her eyeballs were white as jade and her pupils glittered like 2 gems. It was this pair of eyes that brought a powerful murderous feeling and made one feel a bone-piercing chill. Suddenly, Zhang Yuochen turned motionless and froze like a stone. A moment later, he immediately mobilized his genuine chi, striking toward the chest of the Blood Spirit Queen. However, his wrist and meridians were locked by two fingers of the Blood Spirit Queen as soon as he attacked. A powerful palm power thrust back toward him in a flash. His genuine chi reversed directions and the palm power thrust backward. It was like Zhang Yuochen's strike just then had landed on his own body. His entire body shook and a great pain spread throughout his body. Fortunately, his chi was guarded by God's mark. Otherwise, he would have been hurt badly by the power of the previous thrust. Zhang Yuochen, I smell the aura of a dragon in your body. Did you swallow the dragon's blood? Your blood should also be delicious. Standing in front of Zhang Yuochen, the Blood Spirit Queen smiled with her bloody lips tilted upwards, revealing 2 rows of neat teeth. Upon closer inspection, she had 2 long and narrow fangs. Suddenly, the Blood Spirit Queen rushed at Zhang Yuochen and aimed her teeth toward his throat. Zhang Yuochen's skin was punctured by the fangs and the Blood Spirit Queen began to absorb the blood in Zhang Yuochen's body. Zhang Yuochen felt a large amount of blood leave in his body in a flash. His vision grew dark and he had a slight sense of vertigo. I must resist and apply that secret spell. A coldness appeared in Zhang Yuochen's eyes. Suddenly, he held the slender waist of the Blood Spirit Queen tightly, then he flew forward and pressed the Blood Spirit Queen under his body. The mystical method was called evocation trick. The reason why the Blood Spirit Queen was so powerful was that she had merged with the half-saint's light left by Golden Cloud half-saint. The so-called half-saint's light was actually the energy that evolved from the divine soul of a half-saint. In order to absorb the half-saint's light, the body of the warrior must be in harmony with the saintly being of half-saint. Zhang Yuochen had refined the holy blood of Golden Cloud half-saint, and naturally, he had become even more united with the half-saint's light. Zhang Yuochen released his own martial soul at once, by which he deployed the evocation trick. At the same time, he attacked towards the globula of the Blood Spirit Queen. Go back. Zhang Yuochen could hardly squeeze out any word. The Blood Spirit Queen's body shook. She had been electrocuted by lightning and stopped absorbing Zhang Yuochen's blood. The light spot between her eyebrows shook violently, and the power of half-saint's light surged constantly in her chi. Bam! Abruptly, she lost control of her half-saint's light and poured out from her globula into Zhang Yuochen's globula through his fingers. His martial soul was absorbing the half-saint's light. It was only a moment later that the martial soul that had been injured was completely healed and was still growing stronger. If he could fully absorb the half-saint's light, his martial soul would be able to achieve the same level of half-saint within a short time. However, when Zhang Yuochen had just absorbed a small amount of half-saint's light, the Blood Spirit Queen had broken free of Zhang Yuochen's control using her powerful cultivation. Pow! The Blood Spirit Queen struck Zhang Yuochen's chest and sent him flying out. The evocation trick Zhang Yuochen used disturbed the power of half-saint's light in her body, which surged around her insanely and was completely out of her control. She could not move after that hit and had to fully suppress the power of the half-saint's light. The Blood Spirit Queen closed her eyes and furrowed her brows slightly. Take me away at once. 5 blood spirits were shocked to see that their queen seemed to have suffered a heavy injury at the hands of an ordinary human being. They immediately lifted the queen and fled into the jungle. Thick blood fog gradually dispersed. Pow! Zhang Yuochen fell heavily on the ground from the sky and nearly fainted. Thanks to the dragon pearl, otherwise my internal organs would be broken into pieces even if the body was not shattered after her hit. He took a healing pill and started to run his genuine chi in order to recover from the injury. Just now, it was because Zhang Yuochen had immediately motivated the power of Dragon Pearl that he could resist her attack and save his life. About an hour later, Zhang Yuochen's injury had probably recovered about 30%. Because he feared that Blood Spirit Queen had suppressed the power of the half-saint's light and had come back. Thus, he quickly left and was afraid to stay there. About running for almost 150 kilometers, Zhang Yuochen subdued a second-level savage bird called Lion Ostrich. He sat on its back and went back to Devil Marshal City while recovering himself. Given his current situation, it was impossible to go to Yunwu Commandery. In that case, he would certainly be killed by the Blood Spirit Queen. Given the current strength of the Blood Spirit Queen, it was probably only Devil Marshal City that she didn't dare to try to attack. Therefore, Zhang Yuoting decided to go back to Devil Marshal City. It would be best for him to ask Master Lei Jing for help and kill the Blood Spirit Queen as soon as possible so as to prevent her from fully refining the half-saint's light and becoming an evil monster on a level of a half-saint. The Blood Spirit Queen probably sucked away 20% of my blood. I only took 1% of the half-saint's light in her body. On the whole, it was a great bargain for me. Zhang Yuochen took a blood pill, hoping to refine it and restore his spiritual blood as soon as possible. Although he had lost 20% of his blood, Zhang Yuochen still could hang on given to his current martial cultivation. He would be able to surpass his weakest moment in a very short time. 1% of a half-saint's light was a huge power. As long as Zhang Yuochen thoroughly refined the half-saint's light, it would certainly make his martial soul even more powerful. The half-saint's light was like a cloud of white air suspended in Zhang Yuochen's chi. Refining the half-saint's light should also facilitate my spiritual power to reach the 40th level. By then, I will be able to use spiritual power to attack. I could open the heaven, resist death, summon wind and thunder, and learn astrology. Right now, Zhang Yuochen's spiritual power was at the 39th level. He was just one level away from reaching the 40th level. With the energy contained in the 1% of half-saint's light, it will be able to further his spiritual power. This was a great chance for Zhang Yuochen to reach the 40th level. A warrior could enter a mysterious realm if his spiritual power reached the 40th level, and numerous mystical power would follow which excited Zhang Yuochen.